So it's December 5th, 2016. It's it's a Monday. I get to go to work at 4 o'clock this afternoon until 11:30 p.m. So we're gonna do this video before I head off to work in the next couple of hours. The last one I had to reshoot because it was over 15 minutes long. So I cut it down to like 3.5 minutes, so I'm just shy of 4 minutes. Um, but going along with the superhero thing, along with the science fiction, science fact, since it's doing pretty decent, we're going to talk about the goddamn Batman. I mean, let's face it. He is the embodiment of a superhero without superpowers. He's based off of his physical capabilities, his mind, and his ability to just keep on going, his will, his force of will. Um, One of the main things that makes Batman so great, besides his martial arts prowess and his extremely high intellect, is the gadgets that he makes. Um, his costume is varied over the years. Originally in 1939, when he first debuted in Detective Comics, now DC Comics, um, his suit was just pretty much like spandex. It was just an everyday material. Leather cape and a leather cowl. Leather gloves, leather boots, just the normal things that you'd wear every day. The only thing that made him different was his technology. The grapple gun, the smoke pellets, the small pocket grenades, the back cuffs, things like that, things that you wouldn't find anywhere else and that were hard to track down. So, we have the 1992 animated series Batman comic costume look here. It's just, I like the look of this Batman. It was an animated series. Check it out. You can find it online anywhere. His utility belt was the most important thing Batman owned. Why? Because it housed all of his gadgets. His batarangs, his bat lines, the grapple gun, smoke bombs, grenades, laser cutters, throwing stars, caltrops, anything he needed, it was in his belt. Whether knew he needed it or not, he grabbed everything that he could fit into that thing and he walked off. A lot of the pouches were relatively big, some of them were small. The smaller ones held small things like tracking devices, hearing aid, small micro transmitters for listening devices. The larger pouches were batarangs, money, uh, his cell phone, the tracking device used to monitor where those little tracking devices that he planted on cars were going. And he even had a GPS system set up in his cell phone and stuff before BlackBerry ever came out. Way before cell phones even came out. I mean, this is 1939 and he had this stuff. The thoughts people were coming up with back then, we now have. So, Batman's got a lot of varied costumes, a lot of varied gadgets. One of his most recent ones was portrayed in Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, the big armor that he wore. Now, I remember in the comic books he's worn several different types of armor. One was when they did Batman vs. the Predator, and he used a radar type system to track the Predator when he was cloaked. So this is our Dawn of Justice Batman armor. I love the spiked cleat boots. The belt, you can still see there's pouches on it. That's the only thing that ever stayed the same was the belt. It always had pouches to hide everything. In the comic books, the Batman vs. Superman armor wasn't quite as bulky and angular as the one that they showed in the Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. But there's been a couple of different types. One of the other ones was this one. It looks more like a cat, but it had armor plating on the forearms, the bat symbol shaped out of the pauldrons and body armor. And it all had the same stuff. It had the sonar find Superman when he was moving at super speeds. It also had a laser grid, which would trigger where Bruce would look when Batman moved by. Because you break the laser, he moved. That way he could keep track of Superman, and that's why he kicked Superman's ass. With a small little help from Green Arrow and some kryptonite to weaken him just enough to where Bruce could pummel him with his bare hand when he broke the gauntlets on his armor. But one thing that's always remained exactly the same other than the design of it is the grapple gun. It's the same concept over and over again. The only thing that changed was the writers and the artists working on the Batman changed the grapple gun a little bit. The 1992 animated series grapple gun. This is the inside view of it. Little reels, 4 cannon holes. This is your trigger. This is a safety trigger. Fits into the hand like so. The grapple cartridge with a Kevlar line. Kevlar line, yeah, strong, durable, capable of holding 2,500 pounds. That's usually a small car. Now, the only thing that is never explained in the comic books, the movies, or the animated series, the cartoons and stuff, is how much line is that thing holding and exactly how far can it shoot. Well, the animated series, it was based off of a CO2 cartridge, a highly concentrated CO2 cartridge. Held within the handle piece here. When you press the button, it punctures it and it shoots it up through whichever grappling hook is set up at this point here. Which made it quiet, but gave it a good 200 feet worth of range. Which means you have to have at least 300 feet of cable held inside that little thing, which is a little bit difficult to do in something that is, and I'm telling you honestly, this is about the size of what it would look like in real life. However, you don't see this section here very well, but from the picture here, it sits right on top of the hand. So you've got a little bit of room in there, but when you have 4 different cartridges to shoot and the thing rotates after you shoot each cartridge, it's a little difficult to fit 300 feet worth of cable unless it's micro cable, which is very, very thin. We're talking like fishing line thin. So if you're using fishing line thin Kevlar wire that can hold 2,500 pounds, that is some good stuff. Now, the animated series grapple gun was changed to look more like this. These are the grappling hooks. They fold over top of each other. When it expands out, they pop open. Again, this is the actual size of it. If you see, my hand would fit like so over it, and it would sit right on top of my fingers. But I have small hands. I admit this. I do have tiny hands. As I said in my Wolverine video on Wolverine's claws, skeleton and claws, I'm only 5'5". I weigh 126 pounds. I'm tiny. The RV I live in, the roof really is 7 feet. Not even 7 feet. I mean, I can touch it with my fingertips, as you can see. And it's falling apart. But Batman's like 6'2", so it's going to be a little bit bigger. But for me, the drawing works. So the grapple gun is the best item Batman has, other than his batarangs. But the batarangs, everybody's gone over those. I've been through YouTube and I've never found a video actually on Batman and the grapple gun and how it might actually work. So in the Batman vs. Man Dawn of Justice, it's a little more practical. You have a spool here, which I tried to do my best to give you multiple little layers of line here, but each of these would be compacted down like the spool on a fishing line, where your fishing rod, when you push that little button and you wing that thing out and the weights and the hook carry that line out, that's what this would be. Something small, we're talking maybe that thick. Probably about that big around. The size of the large peanut butter cup that you can get on Valentine's Day or around Christmas. You know, the 2-pound peanut butter cup, about that big around. Probably about as same thickness. And then you have the outside view, the inside view, the handle. I'm not exactly sure what this was in the picture that I was looking at online, but I drew it out the exact same way I saw it. Tip of the grappling hook inside the cartridge here, which this is a lock to let go out, and then when you put it back on, it retracts it back, the line back in. But again, it doesn't show how it's fired out. It's compressed air. It may be a bullet using gunpowder to expel it out, superheating the gas, shooting it at 200-300 feet per second, maybe more, because it's smaller than about the same size of a bullet, maybe a little bit lighter. And then, based off of the Batman Begins grapple gun, you have this Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice grapple gun with a Trident type grapple hook. This one, the handle would definitely need to be a little bit longer, but everything is laser pointer, your barrel, the air cartridge. This is the trigger. The air cartridge would have to be somewhere in this area here, I'm thinking, because this shoots forward, slides forward, and the reel goes out. When it slides back, it comes back in. It's magnetic grapple line, so, you know, it's reeled back in rather quickly. Now, it's based off of what would work in real life. You would need a 12-gauge shotgun shell, something the size of a 12-gauge shotgun shell, or maybe a 20-gauge shotgun shell, something short but fat, packed with an explosive powder that when detonated would shoot your grapple hook as far as you needed it to go. The other bad thing is doing this line of sight. You have to judge your distance with gravity, wind shear, and the relative fact that the faster something is moving, the more energy is pushed against it. So you've got to judge for all this. Now, if it's relatively close, like, let's say, Spider-Man swinging from one building to another, there's a good 600 to maybe 1,000 feet between building to building, depending on how long the block is in New York where he's at. So, doing that, you could relatively do it easily. However, if you're standing on the top of a building and you're shooting toward, let's say, a flagpole 4 buildings away, Detroit and Chicago have been the mainstay locations used for Gotham City. So we'll say it's about 650 feet between buildings, and you're 3 buildings away. 650 times 3. Come on, people. Let's do some math here. 650 and 650. 1,300, right? 1,400. 1,400. Then you add another 650 to that. That's 2,000 plus feet. So 2,000 feet, that's a mile. So you're going to shoot a mile of cable by line of sight? No. You're going to need a targeting system, which could be housed in the cowl of Batman. Just like the Iron Man layout, except for it's directly in front of your eye, so it looks more 3D than what you'd be seeing on a plasma screen inside of an Iron Man mask. And it would be small scale, so it would have to work out that way. I'm going to have to cut this video short, so we'll pick up again at a later time.